What's going on, Internet? Andrew Huang here again for LPX Tech, and welcome to my full review of the LG Watch Urbane. Well guys, as the title card suggests, this is going to be a non-technical review, and what I mean by that is, I'm not going to sit here like the other channels do and just talk about specifications like screen size, processing speed, and RAM, as well as all the little quarrels they might have compared to the other platforms. No, those comparison videos can be saved for another time, as well as there's already been plenty of videos that have been made on those. My goal today is to pretty much share my experience of owning this device, as well as additional points that you should consider when purchasing this device. So first, very quickly, let me talk about the battery life really quick. This is going to be my little quick jab at the Apple Watch. The battery life on this watch is absolutely ridiculous in my opinion. Now, my Samsung Gear S could last up to 2 days while pushing it, but the LG Watch Urbane, I was able to push towards upwards to 3 days. Now, I did several things to achieve that, things like lowering the brightness, making sure the watch face didn't stay on all the time, and not using the Wi-Fi or the GPS. But even with all those things on and the screen brightness being relatively high, the battery still lasted more than a day. It actually almost lasted 2 full days. A perfect example of what I mean by that is, I leave for my job typically around 5 a.m. in the morning and don't return home until around 7 to 8 o'clock. During the normal usage, I barely use anywhere from 20 to 30% of the battery, and that's more than 12 hours of use. But another thing that I realized after 2 days of using, when it got down to last right around 20%, I got a little message saying that it was going to turn off Wi-Fi in order to conserve power. Now that little notification that I got after 2 days of use was pretty much the icing on the cake. I did not realize that the Wi-Fi was actually running on the background the entire time. Either way guys, battery life should not be of a concern on this device. By now, you guys have seen plenty of videos, including my own, about, people pretty much putting these smartwatches through a bunch of durability tests and water tests. And the LG Watch isn't any different. It follows the same suit. But if you're still concerned, here's a little quick clip. So folks, going to the bathroom and washing your hands or getting rained on won't be an issue. Now with those technical things aside, let's go ahead and talk about the device. And right off the bat guys, I do have to say that I'm personally not a fan of the circle designs on these smartwatches. I personally feel that it's going a little bit backwards. You're pretty much packaging new tech in old tech form. But that's just a personal gripe because there's plenty of other people who actually prefer the circular designs compared to the rectangular designs or the square designs as the Apple Watch. But I gotta admit guys, when compared to like the Moto 360, even the upcoming Huawei watch, and LG's current LG G Watch R, I feel like this design is actually really quite handsome. I mean, it just looks good. Whether you have this watch face on or even the Tron watch face or the other fun ones, just in general, the watch just looks really good. So for those of you who are looking for more professional looking watches because you work professional working jobs or require suits and stuff, this may be the watch that better suits your need. So while it won't stick out and scream that it's a smartwatch like my Gear S or the Apple Watch, it's definitely going to fit your look and it's going to look very nice and seamless. But on top of looking good, it's going to give you the functionality that you will want out of a smartwatch. Now, if you've seen my other videos around these smartwatches, the one big draw factor that you need to really consider is that convenience factor of owning these things. Yes, these watches aren't going to change your world, but they definitely enhance the ownership of owning a smart device. And what I mean by that is, just consider this. I want you to think about how many emails, texts, notifications that you get throughout the day. Each time you get a notification, you either have to take your phone out of your pocket or your purse or anywhere. You have to turn it on, and for those of you who have passwords, you're going to have to put in your password or swipe it open, and then your phone will open to the notification. And from there, you will know if it was a junk one or a legitimate one that requires your attention. Now, you may say that's only a few seconds of your time, but consider this. Take all the numbers that you think you get throughout the day and multiply it by that. And you might be surprised on how long that is. Now, for some of you, that might be very small or very large because we're all very different people, but in general, folks. But now with these smartwatches, that time is pretty much virtually eliminated. Because anytime you get a notification of any sort, you'll get a little buzz on your wrist, 1 second of your time, you will instantly know whether it's a junk notification or one that requires you to read it or open your phone. And I got to admit, guys, not just in my work, but just in every day in general, it's really nice to be able to do that. For those of you in retail, and I personally was a retail associate for several years, we can't be on our phones while we're working. I know sometimes in between you can, but throughout the day you aren't able to. Now think about being able to see all your emails and messages and texts while you work without having to take your phone out or getting in trouble. You can be ringing someone up or putting stock back and be able to still see all your emails, calls, and texts. I don't know about you, but that's pretty much a selling point for me. But that's smartwatches in general. What about the LG Watch? And I do apologize for, kind of tapering off. And I gotta admit, the Urbane actually does this pretty well. So if you didn't already know, the Urbane is running off Android Wear. And Android Wear in general actually does the notifications well, in my opinion. So anytime you get a notification, it's going to appear on the bottom half of the screen like this, showing it's an email or whatever it is. And once you open it up, you can actually scroll through the messages to read them out, outright. And if it cuts you off, you pretty much just tap and it'll continue loading the rest of the message. And when you're done with it, you can pretty much just swipe it to the right to dismiss it. Now, if you actually want to get it back, you can actually catch it before it fully dismisses and get it back. And another thing you can do if it's an email or a text is to actually reply to it. Now, you can't do it on the device because unfortunately the Android Wear platform doesn't offer an on-screen keyboard. But what it'll do is you can go ahead and hit reply. Now, while Android Wear doesn't support an on-screen keyboard, what it will allow you to do is to reply using your voice. This is just a response to the test email. Thank you for tuning in. And I'll go ahead and reply that. And what's nice is you can choose to cancel it too, but Google Voice is actually pretty accurate these days. I actually really like the use of the Google Voice compared to the S Voice from Samsung. So in terms of usability, it's pretty much just like using Android Wear. So you can go ahead and swipe right to left to bring out all your apps, which is a really nice update from the previous version of Android Wear. And next, you can go ahead and bring up your contacts. And finally, all your fun functions and your settings. Now, going back to what I said about the Google Voice being good, the Android Wear platform actually utilizes voice commands very well. So while you have the watch on your wrist, you can simply go, "Okay, Google, show me my steps." And it actually brings it up really quickly. So here's another one. So let's go back to the home screen. "Okay, Google, what's the temperature right now?" And it brings it up really quickly. You can also do text. "Okay, Google, text Andrew Wong, test text message." Okay, I forgot I don't have my own name on my phone. I'm not narcissistic like that. But it actually works very well. The fact that it's actually picking up everything I'm saying right now is kind of freaky. It actually picked all that up. No, we're going to cancel out of that. But folks, that Google Voice is on point. Now, moving from the usability, I want to talk about the comfort and how it is pretty much wearing it throughout the day. And unfortunately for me, even before smartwatches came out, I wasn't really a watch person. So even if I did have a watch, I found myself constantly taking it off throughout the day because it got uncomfortable, especially when I work or play games or just etc. I just didn't find myself wearing it for long periods of time. Now, when the first LG Watch came out with the sports band and the first Samsung Gear devices, so pretty much all of them rocked sports bands, I found myself wearing them almost all day long because they were very comfortable and very lightweight. Now, while the Urbane is not as heavy as, let's say, a full stainless steel watch, but because of the metal finish and its design, especially with this little knob on the side, I found it a little annoying to wear at times. Especially when working out, because obviously when you go to do push-ups or anything that involves your wrist bending, you don't want that knob jabbing into the back of your hand. Now, at first, the watch was very stiff and uncomfortable because the leather was brand new and hadn't been broken in. But after about a week of owning it, the leather started to settle in and started to become a little bit more comfortable to wear. But I still found myself taking the watch off from time to time throughout the day. But that might be just a personal preference on my point, and it could be a different experience for you. If you're used to these type of watches, it will be seamless to you. Now, for those of you who are familiar with my torture test video for my Samsung Gear S, I can confidently say that the Urbane is pretty durable as well. I am not going to make a video on that because it's a metal finish. I don't want to go ahead and scratch the hell out of that surface and stuff. But after reading reviews on the actual pieces of the device as well as what's in it, I can confidently say that while it may be not as durable as the Gear S, it's going to hold up. And at the end of the day, guys, it's pretty much just like owning any other watch. If you fall or nick a wall, you're gonna get a little scratch or ding on your watch. I mean, if you're the type like me who always bangs into corners of the walls, doors, and etc., maybe this watch might not be for you. Now, while I'm on the feel of the device, one thing I wanted to point out was this watch really doesn't have a wow factor per se. Even when the screen is on and bright in dim areas, some people still overlook it. Back when I had the first Gear and even the LG G Watch and my Samsung Gear S, anytime the screen came on, people immediately were drawn to it and asked what that was. And now with the Apple Watch being released, I still get comments of, is that an Apple Watch for my other devices? During my time owning the Urbane, I actually rarely got asked that question. Now, while that was a happy change finally, it was a little disappointing in my mind. Now, by all means, that shouldn't be a selling point, but that's still another point to consider. Now, I do want to take this time to actually talk about some cons about this device during my 2.5 weeks of using it. Now, my cons list may be a little biased because I have been using these devices for the last 2 years, so I am familiar with what other variations of these smartwatches offer and don't offer. So number one, do not expect this device to have a standalone feature. And what I mean by that is being able to leave your phone at home and being able to use it out in the normal world. Yes, you can go ahead and connect them via Wi-Fi, but you won't have Wi-Fi connection everywhere, especially while you're driving. And don't worry, folks, the Apple Watch doesn't have that either. Number two, the straps are not easy to replace. The watch uses standard 22mm straps, but they will require special tools or knowledge of how to install and uninstall them. Or you can just simply go to a jeweler to do so. But unlike the Apple Watch and the Samsung Gear devices, you won't be able to easily switch out the bands left and right. Also, for you fitness buffs, this watch is really not for you because I tried wearing this to the gym and it just was completely useless in it. It got uncomfortable really fast and it got in the way a lot of times. So while the heart rate monitor and the pedometer are very good, they're rendered useless in that environment. Another con is that it doesn't have a light sensor on the device. So the Urbane doesn't know whether you're in a light environment or a dark environment and won't adjust the brightness accordingly. Essentially, you actually have to set the brightness yourself. But one quick fix for when you're in dark environments like a restaurant or a movie theater is that it actually has a theater mode. So you can go and scroll down and move over and it'll go into theater mode, which means it's actually going to turn off the display until you wake it up. Now, while it's in theater mode, it's still going to buzz to let you know that notification came in, but until you press that little side button to wake it up, the screen will stay off. Now, another con I actually mentioned earlier was about it not having an on-screen keyboard to reply to text and emails. Now, I understand that it has an intuitive voice command function, but you can't use that voice function in every situation. Now, my last con isn't really a con in my opinion, but I still want to mention it, and that is the price of this device. Now, I understand that they're giving you premium materials and stuff like the Apple Watch does, but at the same time, you can get the same functionality and usability out of a watch that is half of its price or even less. So at that point, you're paying anywhere from $150 to almost $250 just for the materials. And in my mind, that's not worth it. But once again, everyone has their own needs and wants. But folks, that's pretty much it. Other than that, there's really not too much going against this watch in my opinion. Especially if you're in the market for Android Wear products as well as a premium looking device. Now, other things I know you're probably going to want to ask is the apps. Now, I know this might sound crazy, but I actually personally won't be going through much of the apps. And before you go commenting saying, that's stupid, what the heck? After using these devices for the last 2.5 years, I have found that the apps are pretty much useless. Not all of them, but about 95% of them. I pretty much mainly use my smartwatch for just getting my notifications and for the fitness apps. And I also do like the media control functions to be able to control my music through my watch. So while you're going hiking or for long walks, you can go ahead and leave your phone in your pocket or your backpack. You can go ahead and control your media and your volume through your watch. Now you can go ahead and judge me and say that's stupid, why wouldn't you download all those apps? I've had Android Wear before, I've had the other smartwatches, and I did download all the fun games and apps, but at the end of the day, I found them really useless on the watch. Now some of them like Find My Device, the trackers, the tip calculators do come in handy from time to time, but you're not using them on a day-to-day basis. At the same time, guys, you guys have a perfectly good working phone with the full screen to do those apps on. Now, you can call me crazy on that, but that's just my personal opinion. But one last thing about the apps is that Google does offer a lot of essential apps that you can download from day one. So I definitely recommend poking around those. But one last highlight piece I do want to talk about is the watch faces. Now, you do have a ton of watch faces that you can choose from the Android Wear store. But I actually really like the watch faces that come default with the Urbane. And the thing is, you can go ahead and choose from several. Now, I did download a trial one that I really did like. I personally like this kind of look, to be honest, because it looks a little bit futuristic. But the other watch faces, like these silver and gold chairman designs, they look really good as well. And that's pretty much to complete that professional look. But you can go ahead and choose from an assortment of different designs and functionalities on these watch faces. So what's the final verdict? Should you buy it? Should you ignore it? Should you pass it? Well, that's pretty much up to you. Now, I definitely recommend checking out the other watch interfaces like Samsung's Tizen, Pebble, or even the Apple Watch if you're considering upgrading to the Apple phone. Now, I say that because each watch interface offers its own unique experience. But if you're set on Android Wear, I definitely would take into consideration all the points I talked about in this video today. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed that review and got the information that you needed. If you have any questions about the device or just in general about smartwatches, please feel free to leave a comment down below and either me or someone from the community will get back to you. At the same time, I'll go ahead and leave links to videos I've done previously about how to choose a smartwatch and comparisons about the different operating systems. But guys, I appreciate you watching my review, and if you actually stuck to this point in the video, thank you for watching this entire time. And if you haven't already done so, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button for more future content, as well as to check out the other videos I've done for other technologies and virtual reality and stuff. But as always, hopefully I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care. And then just go ahead and tap it all on sides. It's gonna go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. What's next? Let's do the scissors. We are going to do the sharp end of the scissors. The very sharp edge. And just scratch it back and forth. And just glides over that smooth surface so well. And look at that, still no scratches. It's just my oil off my fingers. Oh, let's move up to sharpness grade, shall we? Let's get the kitchen. Well, this is like a more of a steak knife. And just gliding, go back and forth, scratch side to side, side to side.